Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Mass Effect 2174, Episode 11, Part 3. I never say that stuff. Okay, so let's go to, you guys open up the door, and as you guys open up the door, you see on the other side, there is a Solarian that's standing there. He's still wearing his jumpsuit, because of the fact that he didn't have appropriate clothing to change into and being released from the prison that he was in, because he was in there for as long as he was. He's still in his, more or less prison clothes, but he has, a badge that says he's welcome to be out. He's standing there. He's across the room. He has in his hands a light pistol. Honestly, Carmine, this thing looks like shit. This pistol looks like, within a handful of shots, it's going to fall apart in his hands. And his hands are shaking. And he's looking at the doorway as the door opens up. Who's the first face he sees as the door opens?
Who is the shirt?
I would have taken points with the shirts, and basically I'm stood there in full armor, 2 guns there, the pistol on the side, but I do have a shirt tucked in somewhere in between the holsters on my back, so I could just pull it out and toss it to him if need be.
Sure. So he's standing there and he's like, "Who the hell are you?"
Easy there, partner. Look, I can show you that we're not bad people, but you're gonna have to trust me, all right?
I got released from a life sentence early. I got released from a life sentence early and told to meet up with you. That means you want something from me. What do you want from me?
It means we're working with your husband. Toss him the shirt. Let's go.
Do you grab it out from his side and just throw it?
Yeah.
I will just walk him through it. I'm gonna pull out something
Oh,
to show you.
Yeah, she just
I
grabs
toss it out and I pull it. Yeah.
Okay. Honestly,
Yep.
he was so put in shock, into a mental shock with your line beforehand. He what? And you throw it on the ground and he sees it. And it's one of those, he looks at you and his lips move for a couple seconds, but then he ends up going forward, reaching out and picking up the shirt, and he's like, "Okay." And he just, he just drops the pistol on the ground. I mean, it's sort of, again,
I'm not gonna bother picking it up.
could have misfired, but he drops the thing on the ground and just starts following you guys out silently.
Okay, we'll get him back to the ship.
Mm-hmm. You guys head back to the vessel. When you get back to the vessel itself, the two of them, when they see each other, it is genuinely a heartwarming moment. It's one of those times where you're just God damn it, that's just beautiful. You know what I mean? They haven't seen each other for ages. Clearly, it's you give them their peace, you give them their time, so on and so forth. The question is, was Icarus with Winnie the whole time? Or did Icarus go with them to go and collect this food?
I imagine Icarus went with them because he's usually, it's just more firepower in case things go wrong,
Absolutely. Then that means Icarus also gets to have an opportunity to firsthand see a beautiful moment between two organics, something that's not entirely lost on him. It's one of the little bits of grounding that he
likes
has.
rom-coms.
Yeah, exactly. So you guys give them a little bit of time, but obviously not too much, because you have to, more or less, we have jobs to do, we have things you have to do. So you give them a little bit of time to talk with one another, but say, you could talk while we're in the sky. And you take off and head to the stars. From Anos Basin, you of course drop your fuel from 5. What did I say? So 7 to 6 to 5 to 4 to 3, bring you back to the Exodus cluster. Back in the Exodus cluster, do you want to refuel?
Take us to the place where we had the guy from the Alliance.
That is going to be in the Exodus cluster. That's where you dropped him off. This is after you had assisted with the ships and whatnot. This is also where Sid was training.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's that garden world, whose name I can't think of at the top of my head. I'm sorry. So you guys are able to head there, no problem. Mass Effect Exodus cluster. What the hell is the name of that? I'm sorry, it's just going to bother me. I know it's not important, but it's going to bother me if I don't look it up. Terra Nova. So you guys head back to Terra Nova.
That's the one.
And are able to dock there. When you guys dock there, I don't know if you remember, but you've actually been gone for a considerable amount of time at this point. So when you guys dock there and you look to go fuel up and everything, you do reach out to catch news of Sid. Sid is not here. Sid is actually an understudy on a vessel doing her tests and whatnot to try to become an actual Alliance pilot. Who do you reach
good
out?
for her.
Who do you reach out to, Carmine?
I would like to reach out to the assistant of the admiral, the rear admiral.
Okay, this is the female that you were speaking to. So I believe the assistant was female, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So when you speak to her, kind of reach out, she goes, you send the correspondence to her, she sends correspondence back, more or less saying, like, it's been a long while since we spoke. I'm sure I can find time to meet with you. And then kind of like gives you like coordinates of a nice restaurant and the time to meet her. Who comes to the place? Just Rick, or do you go as well, Constantinia?
I feel like just Rick would be better for this.
Yeah, I'm not. The robot's not gonna go stand by the restaurant. Actually, I know. We want that fun, but
you're gonna fiddle. You're gonna work on things with Winnie. The couple is gonna have their time to like chat. Constantinia, what are you gonna do?
That's a good question. You know,
What
I'll
does she do?
probably pester Winnie and Eichless a lot. A lot of questions.
Icarus will point out, "Is like, so now that you have nothing to do, you come here.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Have you considered getting a hobby?"
Maybe this
This
is
kind
a
of
good hobby
is
for
my
her.
hobby. This isn't my job, therefore, it's a hobby. Correct?
I suppose. I can't argue with that logic.
Winnie's happy to have somebody to explain the basics of stuff to, but I imagine gets annoyed after she has to explain too many basics of things to you.
But Custody is a really good listener though, and like we'll just like absorb it.
Of course. So
That would be nice for her. I don't know.
So it is one of those things where you guys, the two ladies have some fun chatting and working on the device and whatnot. Icarus is probably thinks
We
it's too
can
much
share
chatting.
food, so I can make us dinner.
Oh,
That's
Yeah.
oh, there you go. Like I haven't shared dinner
Aw.
with somebody in so long.
fun. That's actually kind of nice. I'll do that.
Ah, there you go. You head to the restaurant to meet with her. When you actually sit down, do you go in your armor?
I would have put on like formal Alliance military clothing if I had it. I probably don't anymore because the whole dyeing and like discharge and stuff. But
But you have nice clothes.
I was gonna say,
I would
it doesn't
wear
really
something
matter.
formal. Yeah.
It doesn't really matter for Carmine because he's got like clank, like subdermal armor.
That
Even
is
like a
true.
vest is stronger than I think me. So someone made of metal. So you know.
So I would just go out in my formal wear and have a pistol on my side.
Okay. So when you guys sit down and have your meal, and it is a nice restaurant, so it is good food. She's like, more or less after you guys have a bit of small talk and chatter and whatnot of like stars that you've seen, things that you've done, terms that you've served before, that kind of typical stuff. She's like, so you called me for a reason, and I imagine it's not just for the meal.
Well, this is a pleasant way to spend time. There was a small matter that we are currently looking into. As you know, we've been looking into those gas giants with that specific particle and scanning gas giants along the way. We feel like we are on the verge of stumbling on a major discovery that could have galaxy-wide reaches. I can send over the data that's like relevant to it. I won't bother you with the details because, well, let's face it, neither of us are scientists. But our ship does not quite have enough fuel to get where we're going. So I wanted to ask a small favor.
You want us to fill you up?
Just a couple of units should be enough to get there, and then we should be able to make great things happen.
You
And I can like... Oh no, go ahead.
You and I both know that the fuel, while being expensive to a typical traveler, is not very much to the Alliance. However, there are still certain expense reports that I have to fill out for reasons for why I'm doing this, that, and the other thing. If I'm going to give this to you, I do need to have something in return. whether it be that data directly, or perhaps I can put a scientist on the ship with you.
At this point, I will send her like contact details of Rebecca and basically explain to her that I have been working together with this scientist a while ago, and we in fact plan to be rendezvousing with her to review some of the data. I'm sure that if you then were to reach out to her, she could provide you with all the details that we discover.
Looking up her report and this history and everything that she has, she goes, "This is the woman that was fired from that the planets that had the accident, the leak on it."
No, I'm talking about Rebecca, my scientist friend.
Oh, sorry, this is a different one.
Completely different.
My apologies. She goes, Rebecca, this is, I'm trying to remember where it was that you had met Rebecca before. Okay, she goes, oh, this is the scientists that have been working on the relations between the Taurians and the humans for some time.
Correct, yes.
It seems as though their project has hit a couple of hiccups along the way. So she's not saying this off the top of her head to be fucking ridiculous. She's kind of like scrolling through her report and like picking up tidbits as she goes. She's like, it seems as though their project has hit a couple of hiccups along the way and they're still searching for some more funding. Perhaps cutting down on some of their staff would be a good way for them to save a little bit of money. So I could put in the request for a transfer. But how adept, looking up to you, like meeting eyes again, how adept is she at the kind of research that you're doing at the moment?
She's been able to help us out well so far. I feel like she could possibly help us break through. We've also brought in a Solarian, because this is, of course, Solarian folklore that we are chasing, and there are still Solarians that have spent significant time trying to look into this matter. So I feel like we have the experience on board now to solve this matter. But all we need to do is be able to get there.
Roll for me a talk charisma check. But honestly,
oh dear.
Honestly, I'm gonna give you a +2 on this one because it's like you have like really, you're making really good points, and you have already offered to give data. You're just trying to find a way of doing this without giving the data.
Yeah. So is it, if wow. Is everyone cool with me using a point of luck for this?
That leaves you a 5
cool,
left.
because my talk is horrible.
Okay, so you're talking to her, whatnot. She's thinking about it. She's like, I get it. You want a familiar face, and so you need somebody there to make this happen. I'll give you the units of fuel. I'll make it happen. And you do have a Taurian that's on your ship, one that's been working to the benefit of the Alliance for some while. Well, I'll say that perhaps she is coming aboard to study the relationship between this Taurian and why it is that she's looking to do all of these benefits and so on with you. We can put together the story to make this work. That's not an issue. But I do need to know where you're going. I can't just go sending Alliance officers into space without knowing their destination.
My friend is currently located in the scroll down for
Hawking Ida.
In the Hawking Ida cluster, and that is in fact the location where we will be investigating this phenomenon further.
And it's going to be within that cluster itself? You're not going to be leaving there chasing these stars?
We should be around the Century system. Although, that is where the anomalies start to begin, and that is where we need to investigate further. But it should be around there, according to our best calculations.
I'm not very familiar with the stars or the planets over in that area. There's not anything of significance that I believe I should know about happening over there. So I guess I will leave that. I guess that's enough information right there. She will, of course, be able to maintain regular reports sent back to the Alliance.
Of course.
Then I will put in for this transfer for you. Your ship, I'll have it refueled. If I remember correctly, you can only hold so many fuel bits as well, so it's not like it's going to cost too much, is it?
It's not a whole lot indeed, although the only reason we haven't really been able to is we've been running on a bit of a tight budget recently. You know, scientists, if you don't get government funding, it can be hard to scrape by sometimes.
Which brings us to the rest of our conversation. You said that you had data about all this research that you've been doing that you wanted to transfer to me in exchange for funding. Are you ready to dump that data over in exchange for the funding?
Yeah.
Out of game, how much are you willing to transfer, Rick?
Just like bits of where it... A bit more background information on the particle itself. Obviously not the entire bits of it just yet. But like definitely more on where this particle is found and the relation to the gas giants itself. Basically just non-essential information that still might be interesting to the scientific people.
She takes the information that you send to her. She tries to scan through it for a little bit. But she's like, honestly, this all seems like gibberish to me. Thank you for the information. Obviously, it's going to have some value. However, I can't tell you what the value is as of right now because I do not know. I'm going to have to run this through the science division to see what it is that they can come up with. However, I understand that you are also handing over something that you perceive to be valuable. I'll give you a 10,000 credits payment right now. And if that is an overpayment, then I'll just make sure I dock your pay in the future to make up the difference.
All right. Hopefully big things will come of this in the near future.
She wires over the 10,000 credits to you, and you guys finish your meal. She, for her dessert, she actually enjoys a molten lava cake. It's delicious.
Wow.
Yeah. Are you more of like a strawberry shortcake kind of person there, Carmine?
Yeah, Carmine's a simple man. He enjoys the simple pleasures in life a lot more now that he died and came back.
And you guys are able to kind of go your separate ways. So you head back to the vessel. Everybody's up in what they're working on. Everything's good to go. Take off. It takes another day for them to finish doing the refueling and everything. You inform the crew that they're going to be. My brain's not working. You inform the crew that they're going to be allowing an additional person aboard, but it is an old friend of yours. I don't know if it's something you care to RP with everybody.
No, I would basically let them know that the person that we spoke to earlier about the human Turian mission and like got us to like free one of the crews, she's gonna come on board for a while, so I imagine nobody's gonna have any sort of issue with that.
Okay. So when you guys finally do get back into your vessel, this is gonna be a big jump for you guys. You're going from the Exodus cluster back up to the Horsehead Nebula, and then now this is the furthest you've ever traveled since the beginning of this current campaign, all the way over to Argus Row. But that doesn't stop there, not even leaving the actual relay that exists there, jumping to the Shadow Sea, and then finally over to the Hawking Ida. I say this is the furthest, but actually I just remembered you did go once to the Omega Nebula, but you did that on...
Yeah, but that was not on our ship.
It was a transport ship, exactly. So this is by far the furthest that you guys have traveled on this ship, this beat-up old ship, this whole while. Finally finding yourself over to the Hawking Ida to meet up at that station. That station is in orbit. So that was a Sentry star. I believe you're over by the... Ver is the name of the star that you're going to be around. Correct. You're going to be over in the Ver star, which is where they have that thing kind of situated and orbiting their space station that's over in that area. So you make your way over to Ver, Verr, and finally find your way over to her station. This is a a large space station. So funny thing, as you're approaching the station and checking it out, the station itself is, in fact, a Taurian space station. It is a Taurian-built space station that has since had a bunch of different upgrades and whatnot put onto it that are designed by humans and Taurians together, working together to make it happen. So because of the fact that it's a Taurian space station that has many humans aboard, it's actually going to be about 60% Taurian, about 25% human, and then... the remaining 15% being like a combination of other races that are working together that are hired by either one of those governments or representative of their own. So when you guys do land upon the station and are welcome aboard, it has a very Citadel feeling to it and how the atmosphere feels and tastes, how the gravity feels the amount of pressure, so on and so forth. It has a very Citadel kind of feel to it. It's also very, very clean on the inside, very, very much how you would imagine the Citadel being. However, because of the fact that it is primarily Taurian in structure, the entire station, of course, is designed to be able to move. So even though it's a research station that's set to be in orbit, it actually can transport itself to other areas as well. And of course is built with many defense mechanisms and even one offensive gun that comes off the tip of part of it, because Taurians don't fuck around. They always need to be prepared to handle situations. The structure of it is actually very interesting too. As a human going aboard, you just kind of like, why? Like, why are the walls slanted this way? Why are they designed this way? This just seems funky and strange. Aaron, it feels like home. Aside from, of course, the random cancerous areas that you see that the humans have installed along the way. So, of course, you, Ollie, can always appreciate different races' reasons for building things the way they do, which are never as efficient as they could be. So you guys make your way through the station over to where it is that you guys are going to meet up with Rebecca. So she actually meets you pretty much right outside the docking area. When you do meet up with Rebecca, she's, of course, and this is to kind of like pull everybody into the fold for who Rebecca is. Rick, would you like to remind everybody who Rebecca is? I do, of course, know.
All right, so around the time that Carmine died and then was brought back by Cerberus, after he got out, he tried to get in contact with the Alliance and basically like, I'm this guy, I am back. Hi. They didn't take it very well. And Rebecca is like the only person that really, she did the test. She believes that I am who I claim that I am. And so, she's a very important contact of mine, being my last like lifeline to the Alliance. Yes, eggplant.
So would you like to describe what she looks like, or you want me to?
Go for it.
So
because I didn't have anything in mind.
No, Rebecca's in her mid-40s, which is pretty young in current day standards. Whatchamacallit, she was always kind of smart, so she did graduate from all of her various degrees, all of her PhDs and everything she needed to do to get into her field. By the time she was in her early 30s, which again is relatively young, usually people after they come out of their primary schools, they take like a little bit of a break before they continue with schooling, because you want to enjoy your youth before you go into your career. That's a typical human mindset. However, her family is very traditional to the old world way of doing things. You just school until schooling is done. So she finished by the time she was in her early 30s as opposed to her early 40s, which is where a usual human would. So she's actually been in her career for over a decade, allowing her to like really build up her position and the amount of like access that she's able to have working for the Alliance throughout those years. So anyways, so she's young, being in her mid-40s. She's a brunette, brown hair. She's starting to get gray in a couple of little areas, but not the kind of person to fuss over like her appearance. She hasn't worried about dyeing it or anything like that. You can still see little bits of gray here and there, though she of course still looks very youthful wearing her Alliance officer uniform, because she is in fact an officer. But she's part of the scientific division, so it's not like she really has command over like soldiers. That does mean, of course, she's Navy, not Marine. So when she sees you, as she is meeting up with you right outside where it is that the docking hangar is, as soon as she sees you guys coming around the corner, her face lights up. She has a big smile, and she comes right up to Carmine and gives him a nice big hug. So it's not like a hug that lasts for too long. It's like I haven't seen you in so long. And she actually steps back and holds you by the shoulders, and she's like, "You still in there?
Still holding up.
None of these evil circuits are taking over your brain or anything?" Tapping your shoulder that clearly has its armor over it anyways.
Well, it's been working out well so far.
All right, well, just making sure, like running two fingers in front of your eyes, just teasing you. Just making sure you don't have any Cerberus ideas.
I start blinking very erratically.
There's a little bit of a chuckle. And she says, "It's so nice to see you. I mean, obviously we've spoken a good bit on the you know, but it's just so nice to see you. It really is. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm being incredibly rude. And she turns and then stands like open towards you guys, but silently for a moment.
Yeah, I just would gesture over and like, this is Constantinia. She is part of the hierarchy, but she's been.
To interrupt you for a second, sorry, Rick. She actually gives you a very well practiced traditional Taurian greeting. So as opposed to like whether it be clasp with the wrist or whatever, the arms, whatever it is, very well practiced traditional Taurian greeting. And actually, we'll say, well, I'll let you say what you're saying first, Rick. Go ahead. She actually has been.
No, it's just basically she's been a great asset so far.
She'll actually say to you in Taurian, it's a pleasure to meet with you. But you notice that she doesn't just speak to you in Taurian. Taurian actually has, just like Earth, many different languages. There's a ton of different languages. And which language people speak is usually dictated by the markings that one has on one face, because that kind of like comes from like which region they, like who it is they identify with, their ancestral line, so on and so forth. She actually speaks to you in your family's native tongue. She actually says to you a Taurian greeting.
That's very impressive. And kind of like shifting from like the traditional Taurian greeting, which is like a hand clasp or whatever with the forearm, I will like take a step back and kind of like seamlessly try to incorporate that into like a handshake as well.
Okay.
Like a human handshake.
Of course. She'll actually chuckles as she shakes your hand like a traditional human handshake. She actually chuckles at that and says, no need. I'm the one visiting your home here. And then she'll turn to the big robot.
This is Icarus. He has been instrumental in the research so far.
What body are you wearing?
Assume Jack.
Okay. She looks, gives it like a once over and says, we have several of those models aboard this ship. Is Icarus Alliance creation?
I am unique. And I live to serve Carmine.
Turns to Carmine.
I kind of look over as well at that point. But I try to like hide my confusion. Yes.
Meanwhile, I got sassed just by talking to him earlier.
There's a weirdo in the room.
Did you say that out loud?
No, but that's why.
I imagine it pops up on her like there's a weirdo in the room.
There's another human.
So she says, well, just so you know who I am, my name is Dr. Rebecca. Do we remember what her last name is? I know I wrote it down at some point.
I hope she remembers what her last name is. Otherwise...
Rick, did you write it down? I know I did at some point.
I know I wrote it down.
I'm trying to find it. Uh-oh.
See, I was so confused because I swore we met a
Rebecca
different
Stevenson.
NPC called Rebecca. Mm-hmm. Of course, there's no reason why there can't be two Rebeccas in the universe. But I've been confused this whole time.
You said with the one that works with Le Pip before.
Yeah, was she called Rebecca?
I'm looking her up right now.
Or the person on Tiama that we were giving science detail to. I feel like there was a Rebecca or something. Barbara. It's the
Yeah.
She was
I am
Barbara Keller.
Very tired.
You're fine. So anyways, that was one that was working with Le Pip before. So going back, so Rebecca, she says, my name is Rebecca Stevenson, correct? My name is Dr. Rebecca Stevenson. I'm a medical doctor. I was brought here as somebody to, of course, study the effects of the human physiology within Taurian vessels and how it is that you do things different from us. But then beyond that, to understand and study the Taurian physiology when put within human vessels, and then of course playing with the atmosphere and the foods and whatnot that exist to see if we can find some sort of a balance. So the two of them can work together long-term aboard vessels of potentially this is a pretty big hope of ours, new vessels of combined creation. You see, both of us have a militaristic mindset, and it's one of those things where we hope that for the Guardian of the Galaxy, against who knows whether, looks around, realizes she's still in the hallway right in front of the doorway that leads into the docking area. Perhaps not the time and the place for this.
Yes, you have been already saying very important secret information out loud.
I will lead her inside.
So, do what, into your guys' ship?
Into her ship, yeah.
Okay, so you guys will go with her. She'll follow
Yeah,
you
we'll
guys
just
into the
casually
ship.
walk back.
As she was walking onto the ship itself, she's like, wow, now I had read the reports that you guys had done, but this ship is ancient. This thing flies? That's incredible.
Why is everyone
Welcome
so
aboard the
surprised?
womb of the goddess.
That is quite the name for her ship. Why does it say the Veil on the outside?
That's because of our pilot who named it. But apparently in Solarian folklore, it is the womb of the goddess. And we were meant to be where we were.
Oh.
It's a long story. We'll catch up over coffee.
I suppose a womb is a bit more comfortable than a veil. So, there we go. And so she'll come in and she'll go into you guys' quarters where you like more or less go to like your gallery area to like make a coffee or something for her to drink. And as you like go about doing so and probably start with a bit of small talk, she'll actually like, you know, I'm sure you're comfortable with everything that this vessel has to offer. If we go onto the space station though, the food is probably a little bit better. And the shower is probably a little bit warmer. And perhaps the chair is a little bit more comfortable.
Possibly, but the way the introduction was going, it's probably better to not discuss certain things on the space station.
Well, no, you're right. And so you pour her what you think is a pretty decent cup of coffee because you've been forced to think so over the course of how long you've been here. And you guys can grab your beverages and sit down in the situation room. At one point in time, the two Solarians end up coming into the room, and she gets up and she goes and introduces herself to them and them to her as well, and so on and so forth. And it's one of those things where she does have like a lingering look on your pilot for a little while, like he seems familiar to her for some reason. To which you all pretty much can come to the conclusion she's probably seen him in like the 21 top most wanted list or something like that. And you guys sit down to have the conversation with her. Carmine, do you want to lead it?
Yeah, I will pretty much just explain all the things. Like, here's the thing, we saw like a constellation while we were in this temple. And by my reasoning, it is a perspective from the origin of this particle that we're looking for. And with my best calculations, I've been able to trace it somewhere to the Century system here in the Hawking Eta cluster. However, the position of it does not seem to line up with any of the mapped or explored planets.
Well, I am not really one known for studying astronomy, though the occasional astrology. It's a human.
I understood it. I did not find it humorous.
It's probably because you're a Taurus. So, I do know a few people on the station that might be able to kind of map out where it is that this is. We can look out. This is why you came, was to figure this out, correct?
Yes, although there is something I should probably also inform you about.
Before you say anything else, she will slide a data pad forward, and on it is transfer papers. She says, "This."
Yes. It should be a temporary thing, hopefully. But while I was back at Terra Nova, the way to get here was to ask for some help from the Alliance to get enough fuel to get here. One of their demands was a scientist on board that would be able to make regular reports back to the Alliance. And since we already had a scientist of the Solarians here that should be able to help us figure out what we need, this seemed like the best way for us to be able to do this without too many prying eyes, and with everyone on here being trustworthy.
So you don't need a medical doctor for this job, then?
Not officially.
Because you're a pretty decent triage field medic. So you don't need a medical doctor. I am just a token in the machine.
I'm sure you would still be useful despite this not being your chosen field.
Ikelis is like, yes, very much just a cog.
I'm not gonna lie to you, your presence here will help us being able to pull this off without too many prying alliance eyes, yes.
Okay. So we're going to take this information, we're going to try to triangulate where this point of origin is, what night sky is seeing exactly what we're seeing. Okay. Is there anything else that you're working on?
There was also this planet that, and I pull up the other data. This planet was mentioned as the Wrath of the Goddess. Supposedly,
Clendagan?
something or someone else went to investigate before the Solarians were around. And this is the result.
Clendagan is a planet that's been studied at extent by the Taurians long ago. Well, not that long ago, but you know, it's been studied pretty extensively. They've even sent probes to the surface world and done a considerable amount of research that's been done there. I've read the report because it was really interesting to see such scarring in the did something like that form naturally, which is what was originally believed. Well, that's what humans originally believed happened, was that something, but you know, Taurians have a different mindset. They always think war, and so Taurians, of course, looked into it, and it does actually seem as though something hit the planet that was pretty intense. I can send the report to you that they were able to compile, but it does seem as though the popular Taurian belief was that some massive mass accelerated weapon was fired somewhere in the area and smashed into the planet, either intentionally or unintentionally. It was either a narrow miss of the planet or a glancing by it while heading towards a true target that caused such devastating damage to this planet. So we did the probes that looked down. I mean, I can't remember how long. Some number of millions of years ago is when this impact happened. Again, I have clearance to acquire that data for you.
Yeah, I would like to read that in my spare time.
Sure.
The image of a giant space battle millions of years ago with whatever can cause that does tickle the imagination a fair bit.
Yeah. That's I mean, it is one of those things that makes you remember, and she does chuckle knowing that the significance of like the ridiculousness of what she's saying, but she does say it is one of those things that make you remember we're not alone out here.
Very much so. Interesting fellas, this Protheans.
It is so funny to think that when we were children, we still believed we were the only people in all of the galaxy. And then as we discovered this incredible multi-race, multi-species society that existed out here, that even this huge society of dozens of races, even as we continue trying to map out together our combined efforts to explore the stars, that there's even more out there that we can't discover, that we haven't come across or been able to define. So it's just, it's an interesting time to live, don't you think?
Definitely.
Well,
definitely.
I'll get the report compiled for you. To finish what I was saying to you out in the hallway beforehand, and thank you for pulling me into this vessel, she says to Constantinia, but she does immediately switch over to Taurian when she says that. Thank you for pulling me into the vessel. She says, switching back to the language that most people speak. She switches back saying, what we're working on here is combining, we're trying to find a vessel. We're trying to combine to find a vessel that maybe the Taurians and the humans can create together. There's currently a bid going on between the hierarchy and the alliance to see who gets to have the first vessel, who gets to have control. I honestly have money on the table, guessing that the Taurians are going to win the first vessel.
I don't know. You'd be surprised. Us humans are quite stubborn, after all.
Yeah, sure, but I mean, what we're actually looking to create as our first vessel is a frigate class vessel that will be designed for very long range travel, potentially even some stealth tech built into it, which is of course something that the Turians have been working on for a long period of time. So the idea of them just handing that over to the humans is pretty slim. But also beyond that, the vessel is designed for outside of the beaten path defenses and exploration for the greater for the benefit of the Citadel in general. So usually that kind of task falls into the hands of the Taurians. So it's very likely they're going to win the bid, and they're going to get that first ship. And I'm really excited for it because
who knows? People might recognize that while humans, we might have a tendency for violence. We also have a curious side about us.
Listen, all I know is that assuming that vessel is created, and it is created for the Taurians, I have been buddying up pretty closely with this incredible Taurian doctor that's most likely going to be the one that gets the station there. I'm hoping to be, his, like the head of the division, of the medical division underneath him, which would be incredible. I'm really looking forward to the opportunity. So we will see as the time goes, won't we? In the meanwhile,
we will see.
Why don't we take this data, send it over to the friend of mine, compile it together. I'll send you that report. But in the meanwhile, we don't need to sit here while that compiling happens. Either you're welcome to take a bit of a leave, relax, since I imagine it's been a long while since you really had a comfortable bed to sleep in, or we can even take a flight down to Clan Dragon itself. The atmosphere is not very dangerous, if I remember correctly. Cold, but not anything beyond what your ship should be able to comfortably fly in.
I think it would be good to have a bit of R&R here. I don't think... In our research, this was very much mentioned as something came here to investigate it, but that didn't go well. I'm not sure if investigating that would lead us much further. Besides, I think we can all agree that we could use a few days off in actual comfort.
I do have to warn you that if what you're saying is in fact what you want to do, if this is going to be a leave of absence, and she gestures, while still talking to Carmine, looking at Carmine, gestures over to Constantinia, that does mean 21 Earth cycles.
We've had issues with that, yes.
It's not an issue. It's actually a brilliant thing. It allows you to keep focused. I mean, you should be able to truly allow yourself to relax before you put yourself back into the fray. Honestly, I really wish that the humans would adopt some of these Taurian social features. It really would be beneficial for the morale of humans doing these long-term jobs.
Yes, I know what you mean.
Taurians get 3 such leaves of absence throughout the year. And that's including their off-duty time, too. And not including their off-duty time, too. So, leave of absence it is, then?
Maybe just a few off-duty days. Because let's be real here. If this is what we think it is, I don't think we need to sit around for like a month to wait.
She looks to Constantinia and will say in Taurian, and again, your dialect of Taurian, she'll say, considering I'm a member of the crew now, I'll see what I can to convince him. And we'll toss like a little wink.
I mean, she'll smile at that.
And the wink is a very human thing. Taurians don't wink.
I think it's charming.
Yeah. So, anyways, and you guys are able to get off board. She does, of course, try to work on Carmine for a little while to convince him that a leave of absence would be a good thing, especially hearing the story. These two lovers need some time to reunite with one another. Clearly, this Quarian and this robot that you have are working on an important project they should be able to finish. Don't you really want Constantine
we're
to
not.
be comfortable? Don't you really
Honestly, we're just busying time. Kind of waiting for the mission, really. Everything else is kind of wasted space.
When he's like, shh. Shh. There's a lot of food here I could actually eat. Shh.
I forget that you need that.
Yeah. So pipe down. I'm gonna send you to your room. Please do. And so you guys are.
I couldn't resist.
And so she does work down Carmine for a little while, and if he's any more resistant, she does say, you know, the manifest of the ship does say that the captain happens to be Constantinia. This is Constantinia's crew, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And so the DM forces the hand of a 21-day shore leave of you guys.
I mean, Carmine wouldn't put up much resistance at the end.
And so you guys are able to take that good break for you. In that meanwhile, you guys are able to make your way. You're able to get your hands on the research of Clendagan, and again, it is what I've described to you. They did actually do a bit of research, the Taurians, a good while ago, and they were able to discover it was about 37 million years ago is what they're testing on the materials down there. Is when foreign materials were introduced to the planet, but the foreign materials that you're seeing, it's not like you're not finding the particle as one of the, like with their research, they weren't able to find any presence of the particle because of course they didn't have a means of looking that kind of stuff up. But they do have 37 million years ago approximately is when this impact happens. They did a lot of research into what the world would have been like that 37 million years ago. It clearly would have been a garden world. The atmospheric composition would have been different, so it wouldn't have been like human healthy at first. It would have been terraformed for humans to have been able to exist there, or Solarians. It potentially could have been some other race that existed there, but it was definitely one of those things where it's dangerous. The Taurians also assuming that it was some sort of shot that happened. You can see the point of impact where which side the impact happened coming from and where it was going to. That was all studied. They tried to map out where it was that it was originating from, where it was originating to. However, they came up with about 1 trillion different results for where it could have been, because when that impact happened, it not only changed the actual rotation of the planet, it also changed the axis of the planet. It threw the entire thing in a bit of a spin. So like I said, it has about 1 trillion different points of origin and place of destination that they were able to come to. There was an effort some years ago when this research was done to put together a mission to try to discover where this was, but that was very quickly laughed out of actual funding being given to it. Nobody was going to research about 1 trillion different options throughout the galaxy of where things could be. So nobody has taken up that job. Nobody has actually done it.
Well, here's your band of fools.
Over those 21 days, the astronomer was in fact able to do their research to find out where it is the point of origin would have been for that star. Don't do that stupid thing. Okay, good. And then come over here, do this one. Good, thank you. So where the point of origin would have been, if you look at a map of Hawking Ida in accordance to Mass Effect, which don't feel free not to look it up, but if you are looking at a map of it, the Century system, which is the system that where that planet was, it's on what would be like the galactic northernmost tip of this cluster that exists here. Where it is that the person was able to do their origin, where it is that they were able to find the star that seems as though the night sky is coming from, would have been in the galactic southernmost tip that it would have been taken place. Meaning that whatever was being fired upon, theoretically, if it came from down here and hit way up here to where Clendagan is, it was firing at something that would have been in like the dark space that exists between different clusters throughout the galaxy, still within this galaxy itself, right? Give me a moment. Because the way that you know that the Milky Way works is there's the center of the galaxy itself, that super bright area where blah, 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 and then there's tendrils of arms that reach around. So it would have been shooting at something that would have existed between clusters, somewhere out into like that dark area between the tendrils, 2 different tendrils. And the Hawking Ida happens to be very close to the center of the Milky Way galaxy itself. So anyways, you're able to discover which star it is that this took place. And the star's name is, I have it written down right here, 1 second. This is the Various star.
All right.
So the Various star is where it is that you believe that this point of origin from that room that you were in before sees that night sky. Kind of funny, running a simulation of where it is that you are, of how it is that's seeing the stars. As you know, every year, or as you might not know, every year the stars in the night sky technically change. If you look at the stars exactly at midnight on New Year's Eve today and exactly at midnight New Year's Eve tomorrow, they're technically different. Even if it's so small over the course of 1,000 years, humans would barely be able to notice it with even the most finite of tools. They're technically different because galaxies and stars and everything are always pushing and pulling themselves to different areas. Something supernova, flick out, blah, 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 blah. All those things are the case. Understanding the fact that it changes and that the data that was originally discovered was thousands of years ago with the Solarians, understand that, so theoretically the night sky should be different. The night sky, as you scanned it when you were in that room so many weeks ago, is actually representative of what the night sky would look like today over in that area. So it's not like an old map. It's almost like they were allowing the clock of time to continue to do its work in that room to keep the map preserved for you, so it continued to function accurately. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a break, our last break for this session, and when we come back, we will have you guys shore leave kind of coming to a finish with everybody feeling much more refreshed. Icarus, you and Winnie have actually worked to finish compiling, burning away and destroying those other VI, except for the one that you've loaded into the ship to permanently sit there. You guys are actually able to compile together a device that right now you're actually working to do compilation of data to, you and I have discussed this out of the game beforehand, Ollie, do a little bit of work on that. A much smaller version of one of these containers that we've seen before. Constantinia meeting up with some old companions, having some good drink, potentially dancing a little bit in the rec room.
Yeah, I would hang out with Rebecca as much as possible.
Rebecca being an interesting individual because she actually finds Taurian culture to be incredible. The reason why she joins the Alliance wasn't a means to an end. It's because she genuinely appreciates what it is that they do, and she thinks the Taurians do it better. She thinks, forcing military duty upon youngsters is actually a great way to teach respect. Like blah, 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 blah. Carmine, you also spending time with Rebecca and building up the relationships that you guys had beforehand. Also enjoying your sick leave. All that research being done. And that wonderful couple getting the time that they need to kind of like rejoin and have their time alone. All right. See you guys in a couple of minutes. Bye-bye.